Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Penn Vicarage on this Monday morning. Beg your pardon. Lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us, and I hope this finds you well and cheerful, and that you had a lovely weekend. Friends, we are coming towards the end of the book of Exodus, and today we're in chapter 38. So here we go, chapter 38 of Exodus. Here goes. He made an altar of burnt offering, also of acacia wood. It was 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. It was square and 3 cubits high. He made horns for it on its four corners. Its horns were of one piece with it, and he overlaid it with bronze. He made all the utensils of the altar, the pots, the shovels, the basins, the forks, and the fire pans. All its utensils he made of bronze. He made for the altar a grating, a network of bronze under its ledge, extending halfway down. He cast 4 rings on the 4 corners of the bronze grating to hold the poles. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with bronze. And he put the poles through the rings on the sides of the altar to carry it with them. He made it hollow with boards. He made a basin of bronze with its stand of bronze from the mirrors of the women who served at the entrance of the tent of meeting. He made the court. For the south side of the hangings of the court were of fine twisted linen, 100 cubits long. Its 20 pillars and their 20 bases were of bronze, but the hooks and the pillars and the bands were of silver. From the north side there were hangings 100 cubits long. Its 20 pillars and their 20 bases were of bronze, but the hooks of the pillars and the bands were of silver. For the west side there were hangings 50 cubits long, with 10 pillars and 10 bases. The hooks of the pillars and the bands were of silver. And for the front to the east, 50 cubits. The hangings for one side of the gate were 15 cubits, with 3 pillars and 3 bases. And so for the other side, on each side of the gate of the court, were hangings of 15 cubits, with 3 pillars and 3 bases. All the hangings around the court were of fine twisted linen. The bases for the pillars were of bronze, but the hooks of the pillars and the bands were of silver. The overlaying of the capitals also of silver, and all the pillars of the court were banded with silver. The screens of the entrance of the court were embroidered with needlework in blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and fine twisted linen. It was 20 cubits long, and along the width of it, 5 cubits high, corresponding to the hangings of the court. There were 4 pillars. Their 4 bases were of bronze, their hooks of silver, and the overlaying of their capitals of their bands of silver. All the pegs for the tabernacle and all the court all around were of bronze. These are the records of the tabernacle of the covenant, which were brought up of the commandment of Moses, the work of the Levites, being under the direction of Ithamar, son of the priest Aaron. Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur of the tribe of Judah, made all that the Lord commanded Moses. And with him was Oholiab, the son of Isamath, of the tribe of Dan, engraver, designer, embroiderer in blue, purple, and crimson yarns and fine linen. All the gold that was used for the work in all the construction of the sanctuary, the gold of the offering was 29 talents and 730 shekels, measured by the sanctuary shekel. The silver from those of the congregation, which were counted, was 100 talents, 1,775 shekels, measured by the sanctuary shekel. A bekah, a head, that is, half a shekel, measured by the sanctuary shekel, for everyone who was counted in the census, from 20 years old and upward. For 3,550 men. So big about for 603,550 men. The 100 talents of silver were for casting the bases of the sanctuary and the bases of the curtain, 100 bases for the 100 talents, a talent for a base. Of the 1,775 shekels, he made hooks for the pillars and overlaid their capitals and made the bands for them. The bronze that was contributed was 70 talents, and 2,400 shekels. With it he made the bases for the entrance of the tent of meeting, the bronze altar and the bronze grating for it, and all the utensils of the altar, the bases all round the court and the bases of the gate of the court, all the pegs of the tabernacle and all the pegs around the court. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, here we are in chapter 38. We're continuing the construction of the tabernacle and all the kind of the tent and the various bits of paraphernalia. So here we have the construction of the altar, the basin stand, and the courtyard. You get that in verses 1 to 20, and the verse 21 onwards, you get like an itinerary of what was given. So it's quite interesting, really. I think in sort of seeing how it was all sort of put together. And if you want to see pictures of it, feel free to look at YouTube or Google it or something. You can find what the whole thing used to look like. You've got interesting who was involved in this. You've obviously got the priests under the direction of the son of Aaron. You've got the construction of the sort of the hard stuff, if you like, under Bezalel, and you've got somebody else who's in charge of the linens and the furnishings and that sort of stuff as well. So you sort of see it all pulled together. I think one thing I would want to point out to you, though, is in verse 8, there is a strong mention of the devotion of the women who served at the temple as well. That the bronze they gave from the bronze that was in their mirrors. In those they didn't have glass mirrors like we did; they had bronze mirrors. And I think there's in verse 8 there's a hint here to the devotion of the women here very much as well. That the bronze things were made from the bronze of the mirrors which they'd given. So they'd given something very, very important. So everyone was involved in this. Everyone gave well. But I think here is a kind of sign of the devotion of those women who did serve outside, served in the way that they did as well. So 3 cheers for the women too. So the whole community here is involved in this tremendous act of making this glorious fancy tent and all the stuff that's needed for worshipping God. And everyone who was involved in this. People gave, people made, people served, and all sorts of different ways. And in all the different ways, people served and gave and took part. And I think there's a really, really good way of us thinking about it today too. That everyone should take part in the Church of God. And we all have different gifts in lots of different ways. And God's blessed everyone with all sorts of different gifts and talents, be it, maybe preaching, it might be good with money, it may be someone that's good at listening to people, it may be someone that's good at organising, it may be, all sorts of, the gift of making a nice cup of tea, the gift of listening to people and being there for people and showing the love and the mercy of God. In all manner of ways, my friends, we're all part of God's family and we all have our part to play. And they clearly did that in all sorts of different ways. And so do we today. So I always say one of the greatest gifts God given to us is each other. So do come and if you're part of the church already, then do get involved. Do volunteer. Do come forward. Come and grab me on a Sunday or email me or something. And let's have, because the more we do together, the more we are working together towards God's purpose. They did then, and so should we now. Then in verse 21 onwards, you've got a description of what was given. So far, the last few chapters, you've had the way things have been made. And the sort of glorious tent and so on. Here now, it's almost like a sort of, not to say gloating, it's almost like rejoicing really in the description of just what was given. And you get he's clearly rejoicing in the huge amount that people gave. There'd been this free will offering, and people had given, and people are given incredibly well. People are given. And you just listen to the amounts of gold. I don't know what a talent is, but a gold, a silver and bronze, and all the things that people have been given. People are given. And notice, that's just the gold, silver and bronze. There were also, tanned hides, all the other, the tent curtains and, and everything else that was given as well. So feast on, because they clearly were, feasting on the incredible generosity of the people, that they gave so well. It was a free will offering, and they gave so well. And I think it's a demonstration of the fact of their devotion to God. They were devoted to God, so they gave. If we're devoted to God, then we should give too, and it's part of our faith. And as I say, they were clearly devoted to God, and they gave accordingly. Notice also in the construction of the tent and so on that no corners were cut. They were making something fit for Almighty God. So they gave, so they gave, and they did it God's way. And I do think we should do too, actually. So often the way we do things in church is often a bit lackluster and a bit kind of, we'll sort of, do what we... But I think we actually need to remember that when we give and when we serve, that it is God that we're serving. And in everything that we do for God, we should serve God accordingly, be it sweeping the room out, whatever it may be. Everything we do, we should do because we're doing it for God as well. So it's a demonstration. The way they gave, the amount they gave, and the way they did it was a demonstration of the fact that they were right with God again. They'd gone through the bad one with the golden calf and so on. They'd messed up, but now they were right with God again. And in a wonderful, abundant description of their devotion to God. God had given to them, and they were devoted to God in return. They gave, and they gave abundantly, a demonstration of their rightness with God, their devotion to God. No corners were cut, that they were close to God, and they served God in a way which is fit for God. And friends, so should we. So the message really from the two parts of this chapter today, firstly, is that everybody has their part to play. And everybody, my friends, including you and I, has our part to play in God's work and God's kingdom today. So do please take your part in God's family. And secondly, notice they had this free will offering time, and notice how well they gave. They gave because they were right with God. They gave because they were devoted to God. They served as if they were serving God. They didn't cut any corners. They did it because they were doing it for God. And that's, my friends, is an example to us too. Friends, I hope that makes sense. God bless you. Thank you for watching again this morning. More tomorrow. Have a lovely Monday. God bless you. Thanks for watching, and more tomorrow.